Day one of Sun Devils training camp is in the books, and we're going to talk about it on this edition of the Locked On Sun Devils podcast.
You are Locked On Sun Devils, your daily podcast on the Arizona State Sun Devils. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome back to the Locked On Sun Devils podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. My name is Richie Bradshaw, and I will be your guide for everything Arizona State Sun Devils. Thank you guys for tuning in, and a special shout out to my everydayers who are here every day. Thank you guys for tuning in wherever you're getting your podcast. Make sure you hit like and subscribe and turn on those notifications. And you can stay in touch with all our content by following me on Twitter at RichieBrads36 and the podcast as well at LO_Sun Devils. So basically what we're going to be looking at doing for the month of August. There's going to be episodes in between, but it's going to be a lot of training camp coverage for you guys. I want to keep you in the loop as much as I possibly can. I want to share with you the things that I am able to share with you, and I want you guys to be able to feel like you're in camp with us. So there are absolutely some restrictions that I will not be able to get into, mainly involving play calling, schemes, and stuff like that. But we'll take a look at who was lining up with different teams, who was throwing to who, stuff like that. We'll be able to break that down and go over some standouts as well. So let's go ahead and just hop right into it. So first thing I want to touch on before we even get into the meat and potatoes of this podcast, it is very hot outside. And these kids, bless their hearts, are working very hard. The one thing that stood out on day one of training camp is that these guys definitely show the enthusiasm to want to be there, work out hard, and prove themselves to a new coaching staff. There was not very much lying around or lackadaisical efforts by anybody. Everybody was working really hard. There was plenty of running in between drills. If people weren't running, Coach Dillingham got on them and had them go back to where they were and then try again. So they were on top of them, but Coach was really, really taking care of these kids. They had tons of water. They had lots of breaks for these guys as well. They took, I think, 2, maybe even 3, dedicated breaks during practice. One of them was about a 5-minute break where they actually provided the kids with popsicles in order to cool down. They had music bumping throughout practice. They had their typical main event that was going on. There was a lot of fun that was going on in camp. This is carrying over from spring ball. It was just a much more fun experience this year compared to some years past. And knowing that this is going to be the norm is really cool. And to know that Coach Dillingham cares about his kids enough to be able to make the atmosphere and the ambiance immaculate for these kids. It's awesome. So with that out of the way, let's go ahead and talk about some of the lineups that were going on without diving too deep into detail, because I don't want to just read roster spots and whatnot. I will give you guys kind of the Reader's Digest version. So Trenton Bourguet was getting a lot of work with the first team today. That shouldn't be too much of a surprise because Bourguet feels like the Vegas favorite to be the starting quarterback for week 1 for the Sun Devils, given his experience with the team already, given his established connection and chemistry with some of the weapons that are here, and just being a senior quarterback that has worked really hard is going to reflect. And he does look good. He looks like a very confident passer. I have no issues with Bourguet starting. Drew Pine was getting a lot of reps behind him as well. He looks pretty good. I would say not as good as Bourguet, but I was also really focusing on the defense today. So I would tell you that Bourguet definitely looked a little better for me. Jaden Rashada was getting some work as well, obviously, but I feel like they're going to be bringing him along slowly. At the running back position, DeCarlos Brooks is out there. He looks really good. Tevin White looks amazing. Tevin White looks really, really good. And we actually were able to catch up with him after practice, and he said one of the biggest things that he was working on during the offseason was catching the football and being a more confident receiver out of the backfield. And knowing that he wants to be able to take on that responsibility is a really big deal. And knowing that this is something that he has been working on and perfecting his craft in, that stands out to you. So really excited about that. Wide receivers, not a surprise. Elijah Badger, Xavier Guillory, Giovanni Sanders were the main guys that were out there. But of course, we also saw lots of work from Jake Smith, who looks very, very good as well. He is definitely going to come up on a lot of people, I believe. Troy Omer and Melcon Staval were getting involved as well. And look, Jalen Conyer is definitely tight end one. There's no disputing that. But Messiah Swinson and Bryce Pierre both looked really good. Those guys were rotating in with each other. And Pierre, oh man, I think I'm going to end up geeking out about Bryce Pierre quite a bit. He looks like the total package. And I truly believe that any of these three guys could be the starting tight end for the team. You just so happen to have a superstar in Jalen Conyers. But if Conyers wasn't what he is, you'd still be good with him as a starter, but you'd also be good with Messiah as a starter, and you'd be good with Bryce as a starter. These guys as a whole just look like a very talented, very, very enthusiastic group. On the defensive side of the football, there was lots of rotation, but they tried to get some of the younger guys out there, which I really appreciated, mainly in the form of CJ Fight, who was on the field quite a bit, rolling with the first team. Clayton Smith got plenty of opportunities as well, which isn't a surprise. If you guys have listened to this podcast, you know that I'm a big Clayton Smith and CJ Fight fan. Anthony Cooper looks very comfortable moving inside after being kind of an edge guy, but this is a player that I anticipate is going to be moved inside and outside quite a bit in different schemes, which is also what BJ Green, who was running with first team once again on the edge, once again, he's going to have another similar role where he's going to be moved inside, outside. That's what Coach Ward told us last week. That's what I believe will continue to be the case. The linebackers, this is going to be so much rotation, and I don't think we're going to have a clear, distinctive answer for who the top guys are until a depth chart, like an official depth chart, gets released. But Will Schaefer, James Joncom were running with the first team. Travion Brown and Juju Mitchell were running with the second team. In the secondary, Ro Torrance was starting. Ed Woods and Mason Williams were rotating in with each other quite a bit. No surprise that Jordan Clark was out there. Shamari Simmons and Xavier Alford were mainly with the first team. There was a lot of work involved for Chris Edmonds. Montana Warren, very interesting, was getting some work at nickel. This is one of the more intriguing storylines that's going to be something that I watch very closely, is the role of Montana Warren. This is a dude that balled out in spring ball and somebody that has garnered a lot of attention and a lot of hype as he entered fall camp. In first practice today, he looked very, very good. He looks like a very confident player, and clearly they want to get him on the field and have him involved as much as possible. They have a plan in place for him to get this freshman onto the football field, and I have a really good feeling and a sneaky suspicion that he's going to end up being one of the bigger players for the 2023 season, maybe somebody that guys might be sleeping on. What you guys shouldn't be sleeping on is getting the right parts for your car, though. I'll tell you what, you guys need to go to eBay Motors right now if you're looking for the perfect fit for your car. It's the same thing for your vehicle as it is for building a championship team. It's all about having that perfect fit and making sure that every fit is just right. So the next time you need parts and accessories, head to eBay Motors. With eBay Guaranteed Fit, you can be sure every part you need fits right the first time around. Just add your ride to My Garage and look for the green check to know that your part will fit or your money back. Because just like in sports, confidence is the name of the game when you shop on eBay Motors. And with over 122 million parts to choose from, you'll be back in the game in no time. After all, it's easy to bring home a win when the right parts are guaranteed. Get the right parts, the right fit, and the right prices on ebaymotors.com. Let's ride. eBay only guaranteed fit, available to U.S. customers, eligible items only, exclusions apply. Thanks for tuning in, guys. Wherever you get your podcast, hit like, subscribe, turn on notifications, especially as we go through the process of training camp. I'm going to keep you guys as posted as I can be, so make sure that you are tuned in. Let's go ahead and talk about some standouts. So the first big standout for me, and again, this is just not a surprise if you listen to this podcast. CJ Fight was getting some serious reps with the first team guys. He is, to me, one of the few true defensive tackles on this team. There's a lot of guys that are going to be rotated in and out of there. There's Tristan Monday and Samuel Benjamin that are making that transition. Deshaun Mallory is on the team. Anthony Cooper's bouncing inside. But when I look at like a true defensive tackle, CJ Fight is the guy who fits that bill for me. I don't know if Arizona State is going to be running with a true nose tackle this year. If they were to find one, I suppose it would be CJ. But I think CJ is playing at a really good weight for himself right now. He's very disruptive. He uses his hands very well. You can tell that this is just a very strong kid, a kid who clearly grew up in Texas. Like, he is absolutely that stereotype of Texas football players that come out. Very, very talented kid. Really excited to see him continue to grow. But he's a standout for me. He's just one of those dudes that he looks so good when he gets those opportunities. Hopefully, it will end up translating when the opportunity arises. Now, I hinted at this earlier, but really all three of the tight ends looked very, very good. Jalen Conyers looked good. Bryce Pierre especially looked good. He looked great in training in spring practice, and I anticipate he's going to continue to build upon that. Messiah looked really good. Just really happy with the production that you were getting out of those guys. Overall, there was plenty of other standouts as well. Michael Matus I was really happy to see him back onto the field. Looking like there's not going to be any restrictions on him after recovering from an ACL tear last year. He looks 100%. He looks good to go. He looks very comfortable. And like, this is going to be a good transition back for him. And one of the things that really stood out to me when looking at Matus was the fact that he is a leader for this team. We were told last week by the coaches that guys go to Michael and they ask him questions and they want to get better and they view him as one of the leaders, and he definitely is that. He is one of the more vocal leaders on this team and one of the guys that I anticipate is going to have a much bigger role on the defense than maybe we realize or anticipate. Like, is he going to be a starter? Who knows? I don't see why he shouldn't be, but there's a lot of depth. But the bottom line is, even if he's not starting, he's going to make an impact when he's on the field in more ways than one. If for nothing else, then the veteran leadership by itself will be something that we look at there. Joey Ramos, I had a chance to sit and talk with him very briefly after practice, but Ramos also had a season-ending injury last year in week 1 against NAU. It was an ankle injury. He is back. He looks good. He looks comfortable. He looks ready to perform. I got a chance to talk to him. He said that he's feeling really good. He said by between days 3 to 4 that he anticipates to be back to 100% and full throttle. He also thinks that the offensive line is going to be getting to that point as well, where they're going to be going nonstop and looking really good and being able to provide for their quarterbacks and all that good stuff. Ramos looks really good to me. I'm really excited about him. He's probably the offensive lineman I'm the most excited about. It's either him or Aaron Frost, I suppose. Trenton Bourguet, I thought looked good today. I'm just impressed with him as an entirety. Like, this is a quarterback that I truly believe can lead this team to more wins than maybe we're anticipating this year. And speaking of wins, later on in August, when I start to do my breakdowns, I think I might be higher on 4 wins than I once was, but we'll cross that bridge when we get to it. Ro Torrance continues to be good. Mason Williams was a guy that I noticed. He was making a lot of plays on the football. He had really good coverage. There was a touchdown saving play that he had in 7-on-7s. It was very impressive. He, funny enough, there was a interception that was gift wrapped for him, and he just dropped it. Like, hit his chest, fell to the ground, and you just laugh. And it's that total stereotype of that's why he plays defense. Like, it was just funny. But the bottom line is number 6, Mason Williams. He looks really, really good. And he's going to absolutely have that opportunity to be the starting cornerback across from Ro Torrance. Like, there is a wide open competition between him, between Isaiah Johnson and Ed Woods. There's a lot of guys that'll be vying for a spot. Potentially Jordan Clark if D Ford is the nickel and vice versa. If Clarkson nickel, D Ford will be vying for that spot as well. There's really good depth. There's really good competition in the secondary. But at least for day one, Mason Williams was a really nice standout for me. Not even a pleasant surprise because I thought that he played well last year when he got his opportunities. But he definitely was a day one standout for me. Number 6 in the secondary could potentially be a problem this year for opposing teams. Guys, wherever you're getting your podcast, like, subscribe, and turn on those notifications so that you're in touch with everything that's going on with Sun Devils training camp. That's what I'm here for, y'all. That's what I am here for. Heading into the day 2 of training camp, here's the things that I am going to be looking for. I think it starts with what's going to happen with the team 1s, the team 2s, the team 3s. I do not think that for the first week, maybe even 2 weeks, that Arizona State is going to have definitive team 1s, team 2s, first team, second team, whatever. This is going to be an approach to where everyone's going to get opportunities. So Trenton Bourguet was first team today on quarterback. Is he going to be first team tomorrow? Is Drew Pine going to be first team? Is Jaden Rashada going to be first team? Is Jacob Conover going to be first team? That's something that we're going to need to keep a close eye on and see what's going on there. And it's not just quarterback. Could be a running back too. Tevin White was getting a lot of first team touches, but he could be third team tomorrow if they want to see what Javen and Scatabo and Brooks and Kyson Brown can do. Like there's a lot of competition throughout the roster. Now, short of, I was talking to my dad earlier. I think there are probably 3 players that I think are like solidified number 1s at their position, maybe 4 actually. I would tell you it's Elijah Badger, Jalen Conyers, Isaiah Glass, and Ro Torrance. I think those guys are like undisputed starters. I don't really see any way where they get usurped of their positions. Everyone else should be up for grabs. So the other 4 spots in the offensive line, the other receivers not named Elijah Badger, any corner not named Ro Torrance, the defensive line as a whole, like there's going to be tons of competition. I anticipate there's going to be a lot of different lineups. Like the lineup we saw today for teams 1 and teams 2 for offense and defense, I do not anticipate it's going to be the same tomorrow. I think that it's going to be mixed up pretty much every day. I don't know that we're going to see the same teams over and over and over again. And if we do, then obviously we can start connecting some dots. But right now, this should be a team that should be open to any possibilities. So I would anticipate that that's going to be the case. Another storyline that we're going to watch is Jaden Rashada, obviously. The 4-star freshman, the prized possession of Kenny Dillingham's first recruiting class. He was definitely overshadowed today by Trenton Bourguet and by Drew Pine getting so much of the starting playing time. But we are absolutely going to see number 5 under center quite a bit. I anticipate he's going to have some first team reps at some point in training camp. Could be tomorrow, could be next week. But I do think that they're going to get Jaden an opportunity to throw to the ones, throw to Badger, throw to Conyer, see what he can possibly do with those guys. This is him by himself is just a big storyline. On the defensive side of the ball, it's going to be the continued shuffle of each position, really. Like you could break it down bit by bit. The defensive line, what's going on with the interior guys? Tristan Monday, Sam Benjamin, Deshaun Mallory, CJ Fight, Anthony Cooper. How's that rotation looking? Edge rushers, BJ Green. First of all, BJ Green by himself. Where's he going to work? Is he going to work with edge again? Is he going to work with defensive line, like the inside guys? We'll see where they're able to mix and match him. But you also have Prince Dorba and Clayton Smith and Garen Stansbury and goodness gracious, I could go on for a while if I had the roster in front of me, but I've got so many names in my heads across the other positions. Linebacker, Schaefer and Jonkum were first team. Is that going to be the same tomorrow, or is it going to be the transfer veterans, Trey Brown and Juju Mitchell? Who's the guys that are going to be opposite Ro Torrance? What's the safety situation look like? There's a lot of positional battles to watch, and I expect a ton of rotation, just like I said earlier. So it's not just Jaden Rashada, but Rashada by himself is definitely a storyline. I think the last storyline that I will be kind of taking a look at personally will be what is the overall mood of the team going into the second day of 90 to 100-degree weather for a little over 2 hours. Because I'll tell you right now, it was not 9 o'clock to 11 o'clock. They were on the field getting ready probably about 8:40, and then we finished probably about 11:20. So they were going for 2.5 hours, stretching and actually doing position drills and everything. And you could tell that it takes a toll on those guys. They're sweating, man. Like the media guys like me and everybody else, we're sweating standing still. Those guys are running. Those guys are working out. They are absolutely taking a brutal punishment from the sun right now. So I want to see how it's going to continue, because in spring ball, it was cooler and practices weren't every day. That is not the same now. It is hot as heck outside, and they're going every day. They'll have a day off on Sundays and an occasional day off every once in a while. Other than that, they're going nonstop. So that's going to be something that we're going to need to keep an eye on and see, is it going to be some jet lag going into the next day? Are they going to keep up the same vibes? How about the coaching staff? What's their plans there? How are they going to energize their kids when they start to get tired? Because it just inevitably happens. It's not like they do it on purpose. They're in the beating sun working out. They're going to get tired. How do you keep them motivated? How do you get them to continue to buy in and all that stuff? And then just a bonus one. What's the main event going to be? Main event today, it was some one-on-ones, but they also had the linemen, offensive and defensive guys, throwing footballs like quarterbacks trying to hit some buckets. And nobody hit anything, but Clayton Smith was the closest. I definitely had a little chuckle, and the typical, like, good thing these guys aren't the quarterback. It was funny. So, bonus story, what's tomorrow's main event going to be? They've done all sorts of stuff. They've had basketball shooting competitions. They've had dance-offs. Like, I'm really looking forward to see how Kenny Dillingham continues to mix up his practices and get these kids to have fun while also working their what's off. But that's all that I got for you guys today. Let me know in the comments if there's anyone that you particularly want to know more about and kept in the loop with. But I thank you guys so much for tuning in. This has been the Locked On Sun Devils podcast. Wherever you're getting your podcast, hit like, subscribe, turn on notifications to get an update whenever we post new content. Stay in touch by following me on Twitter/X at Richie Brads36 and the podcast at LO_Sun Devils. I will see you guys tomorrow for another update. Until then, you keep it locked right here on Locked On